It's always been a question as to which legal imbroglio would get Trump first. Few expected it to be this one. Michael Isikoff is a veteran US political reporter who's covered just about every major contemporary Washington scandal. He wrote a best-selling book about the FBI investigation of Donald Trump in Trump's first year in office. He's now writing another book on Trump's multiple legal challenges. I spoke to him earlier. Michael Isikoff, welcome to 7:30.
Good to be with you.
We'll come to the nitty-gritty of the case in a moment, but can you start by giving us a sense of the history that was made in New York today?
Yeah, look, this was an extraordinary moment in American history. The first time an American president was ever charged with a crime. It was something that people have been talking about for quite some time. You know, the irony is, for the past more than 2 years, we've been talking about how Trump may be held, and many believed should be held accountable for his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. But instead, for the very first criminal charges against him, and there were multiple investigations still going on, but the very first is about the events in 2016.
People talk about this indictment as being based on a novel idea of law. Is there a weakness at the heart of the case?
Well, there are a few weaknesses at the heart of it, and it rests on the theory that the payments to Stormy Daniels, the porn star, was a violation of federal election law, because they were only made for the purpose of advancing his campaign and silencing somebody who could upend his campaign or at least damage his campaign. And the problem with that is nobody has ever been successfully prosecuted for doing what Donald Trump is alleged to have done here. And so there isn't really precedent for bringing a case like this.
Well, let me just ask you then, does that mean there is a political element to the case?
I mean, yes, I think that this indictment is going to fuel Trump world and be seen as Exhibit A of how there's been a concerted campaign by Democratic prosecutors to get him no matter what. That's going to register with a lot of people. I don't think that Alvin Bragg looked at it that way, but look, we're all shaped by our preconceptions, and you live in New York and New York City, you're going to have an extremely hostile view of Donald Trump, and you're going to look askance at any suggestion of impropriety or illegality by him. And I should say that, look, I mean, there was conduct here that's pretty tawdry. I mean, he was paying off this porn star through a shell company, misrepresenting it in internal bookings as legal expenses when it was really just a payoff. But in and of itself, the falsification of business expenses is just a misdemeanor. You don't go to jail for that. Bragg has used these election law violations under the theory that the falsification of business records was used to conceal these other crimes, and that's how he gets it to a Class E felony. Even still, I spoke to one New York City court official the other day who said, look, there's no way he's ever going to go to jail on these charges.
What actual evidence do they have linking Trump himself to the deals?
Well, Trump reimbursed Michael Cohen for the payments he made to the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, the porn star. And there's also tapes of Cohen speaking to Donald Trump in which they're discussing this. And it's clear that Trump wants these payments to be made. So there's some evidence here that Alvin Bragg has to present to a jury. So I mean, while this case is far from a slam dunk, I don't think we can say it's just going to go away and Donald Trump doesn't have to worry about it.
And what about the Republican Party itself? I noticed even Mitt Romney, a long-time opponent of Donald Trump, said this amounts to overreach.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think even a lot of Democrats think that, although not too many want to say it publicly. But if you talk to them privately, nobody's I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people are not are apprehensive that this is the case that gets brought against Donald Trump first, because the it sets the tone. And if Trump's whole play here is one of grievance, that he's being persecuted for political reasons, then this particular case is going to feed that narrative quite a bit. Now, as I said before, we got these other investigations going on, and at some point, this becomes quite a lot of legal baggage that Donald Trump has, if for no other reason that he's going to have to show up in a lot of courtrooms. They're going to be, motions filed, hearings filed, and the expectation is the defendant shows up for those hearings and motions. He wants to be out there campaigning for president. He's going to be spending a bulk of his time in courtrooms in Atlanta, in Washington, and in New York.
Michael Isikoff, thank you very much for joining us today.
Sure, anytime.